Venturing into forbidden places and ignoring warnings may seem thrilling, but it can also lead to a painful death. Up next, a soccer player disregards his teammates and jumps into a river inhabited by crocodiles. An amateur photographer, alone in the forest, spots a grizzly bear from a distance. He stays put to get the perfect shot, but by the time he realizes it, the animal is already too close. A troublemaker in Texas drinks too much, ignores the warning signs, and jumps into crocodile-infested waters. In July 2023, in Costa Rica, 29-year-old Jesus Alberto Lopez Ortiz was about to jump into a river. Costa Rica is home to one of the largest populations of American crocodiles in the world. The region hosts two main species of crocodilians, the American crocodile and the spectacled caiman. These reptiles inhabit rivers and lakes stretching from southern Mexico to Central America. Being near these animals can be terrifying, but the American crocodile is undoubtedly the most dangerous. Reaching up to 6 meters in length, this predator is not picky about its diet. It will devour anything it can catch, including humans. A highly skilled hunter, it succeeds in most of its attacks. Its strategy involves patiently waiting for hours until the perfect moment to strike. Once it ambushes its prey, escaping is nearly impossible, thanks in part to its incredibly powerful bite. Jesus Alberto Lopez Ortiz, also known as Chucho, was an adult man who lived in a small community near the city of Santa Cruz. Since childhood, he had always loved soccer and eventually became a semi-professional player for Deportivo Rio Canas in Costa Rica's Liga de Ascenso. He was married and had 2 children, whom he loved dearly. Although his salary wasn't that of a top-tier professional, he was able to provide well for his family. More importantly, playing soccer had been his dream since he was a child. It was his favorite sport, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. On July 29th, Chucho and some of his teammates had just finished a training session. It was a hot and humid day. They were near a river, but not just any river. This one was infamous for being home to numerous crocodiles. Everyone knew this, and no one dared to enter the water. However, the dry, scorching weather gave Chucho a bold idea. Ignoring his teammates' warnings, he decided to approach the river. The water was murky but calm. It looked so inviting that Chucho couldn't resist. He jumped into the river. Clearly, this was a terrible decision. Without a second thought, the player bathed, drenched in sweat, and desperate to cool off. However, in the cloudy water, he barely noticed that he had already been spotted. His friends and teammates watched, laughing in disbelief at the reckless stunt he had just pulled. Then, suddenly, Chucho vanished. Within seconds, he was dragged underwater. At first, everyone thought he was just playing around. It wouldn't have been the first time, but soon, they realized this was different. Without warning, a massive crocodile emerged from the depths. But it wasn't alone. Clamped between its powerful jaws was Chucho's lifeless body, being dragged through the water. A video captured the horrifying moment. Several people, beyond just his teammates, gathered to witness the terrible scene. It was a truly shocking sight. It didn't take long for locals and volunteers to try separating the reptile from the young man. They struggled, but their efforts were in vain. Seeing that they were unsuccessful, a local resident grabbed a gun and shot the crocodile. As soon as the animal was killed, both bodies were pulled from the water. Due to how the incident unfolded and the witness accounts, the country's authorities did not conduct an in-depth investigation, as the case seemed fairly straightforward. Jesus Alberto's body was taken away, and his family handled the funeral arrangements. However, his relatives were devastated to learn that he had willingly jumped into such a dangerous river, one whose deadly reputation was widely known. Many people, including friends, acquaintances, and family members, gathered to bid a final farewell to Jesus Alberto. Despite his reckless act, he was known as a good-hearted, calm, helpful, and humble person. Following the tragedy, the Costa Rican government began considering measures to improve safety around bodies of water inhabited by these large reptiles, which are common throughout the country. In August 2012, in Alaska, 49-year-old Richard White was searching for the perfect landscapes to photograph. Originally from Southern California, He traveled frequently to pursue his hobby and passion for photography. White started taking pictures at an early age, and over time, his love for the camera grew stronger. Before dedicating himself to photography, he had little interest in camping or exploring nature. However, photography made him see the world in a different light. His primary job was at a pharmaceutical company, an occupation he found rather uninteresting, but he kept it nonetheless. At nearly 50, White was well experienced in taking long trips and camping for days, which was no great challenge for him. He was married and had a daughter, but neither seemed to mind his absence much. In August, Richard was on his way to Denali National Park in Alaska, where he planned to stay for nearly a week. He had visited the park before and loved the place. The peace and tranquility he felt there were profound and intense. Lynxes, deer, and bears also roamed the area. On August 23rd, Richard arrived at Denali National Park and set up his campsite. On the morning of August 24th, White prepared himself and set out early. The weather was pleasant, and the sky was clear. It didn't take long for him to find a beautiful scene and start capturing images. The landscape was truly spectacular, with birds and even a few moose appearing from time to time. He knew he could take more interesting photos than just landscapes. The idea of capturing wildlife sounded incredible. That afternoon, Richard spotted something that took him by surprise: a grizzly bear. The animal was far away but still visible. Wasting no time, Richard took several photos of the bear. He could hardly believe his luck in encountering such an impressive creature. The massive bear began moving closer and closer to the area where Richard was hiding. Suddenly, the animal was too close. It was a deadly creature, now just a few meters away. He could have left before the bear got this close. In fact, he should have walked away the moment he first spotted the predator. His instincts had surely warned him to retreat, but his ambition to capture more photos overpowered his caution. He believed the beast would soon wander off, but that didn't happen. White was trapped. Any sudden movement could trigger the bear's fight-or-flight response and provoke an attack. Frozen in place, he waited, hoping the animal would leave. At one point, the bear finally noticed him, and Richard's blood ran cold. Without thinking twice, he sprang to his feet and ran, triggering a frenzied chase. Despite his desperate efforts, the bear caught up to him and attacked viciously. Richard screamed as he was brutally torn apart. After the attack, the bear dragged his body to a hiding spot where it would feed on him over the next few days. As it moved the corpse, it left a trail of blood behind. The next day, a group of people stumbled upon scattered pieces of clothing, a professional camera, and a backpack. Blood was also smeared across nearly every surface. Alarmed, they quickly left the area to seek help. They rushed to the nearest police station and reported what they had seen. Soon, helicopters and park rangers were dispatched to investigate. Following the blood trail, they discovered Richard's remains. The bear was also there, visibly agitated. With no other option, authorities opened fire, killing the animal. It had indeed been feeding on what was once Richard. The camera was analyzed, revealing the photos he had taken on the day of the attack, his final images. Due to the ongoing investigation, the photos were never released to the public, but officers described the last 5. They showed the bear noticing it was being watched, staring directly into the camera, and getting closer with each successive shot. In July 2015, in Texas, 28-year-old Tommy Woodward was doing something extremely reckless. He was swimming in a swamp known for its alligator population. Woodward lived near his twin brother, with whom he had a close and friendly relationship. At the time, he worked at a nearby shipyard. On July 2nd, Tommy was where he usually spent his nights, at the bar with his friends. It was a Friday, and he was a regular, frequenting the place most nights of the week. As usual, Woodward was drinking. One of the bar's employees, Michelle Wright, already knew Tommy well and was familiar with his bold behavior. That night, he arrived with his girlfriend and started drinking with her and his friends. The bar was located next to Burkhart's Marina. That same evening, someone at the bar mentioned spotting an alligator in the area. However, this wasn't particularly surprising, as the location was well known for alligator activity. Warning signs were posted around, clearly alerting people to the danger. It wasn't exactly news. Until then, no one had attempted to enter the water, and both the bar and the marina had never had problems with rowdy visitors. People were used to the presence of the alligators, and in turn, the predators had become accustomed to the regulars. The reptiles showed no fear of humans and were occasionally spotted around the area. Being stealthy hunters, it wouldn't have been surprising if they were willing to attack people. Although there was concern that someone might jump into the water, it was hard to imagine anyone being foolish enough to go that far. The regulars at the bar, including Tommy, were well aware of the risks of the waters and never ventured near them. However, when many people have been drinking for hours into the night, unlikely things can happen. Late at night, after several beers and other alcoholic drinks, Tommy called his girlfriend to go down to the marina. On the way, the couple passed several warning signs, laughing and ignoring them. Once at the marina, they peered into the water, looking for any suspicious movement. Suddenly, a massive alligator surfaced, lifting its head as if observing them, not hiding at all. Alarmed, Tommy's girlfriend pointed at the animal and warned him, but Tommy ignored her caution. Drunk and with his defiant personality taking over, he began yelling and cursing at the creature. Tommy began to move slowly toward the water, then suddenly ran and jumped into it. The same water where a large alligator had been spotted earlier. His girlfriend kept screaming for him to get out quickly, but Tommy remained unfazed, treating the situation like a mere prank. He started swimming, ignoring all the warnings. Suddenly, in an abrupt motion, Tommy's body was pulled beneath the surface. His girlfriend panicked and, without thinking, jumped into the swamp, calling his name, fearing the worst. Tommy briefly surfaced, and with all his strength, shouted for her to get out immediately. He said the alligator had grabbed him and that she needed to leave. Terrified, she did as he asked, losing sight of him in the process. Desperate, she ran to the bar and asked Michelle for help. Confused and frightened, Michelle couldn't believe what she was hearing. No one had ever dared venture into that area, and the warning signs made the danger clear. She called emergency services, pleading for them to get there as fast as possible. Meanwhile, Tommy was likely being dragged, shaken, and crushed. It was unlikely this situation would have a happy ending. Perhaps he had resisted, but in the end, there was no way to face such a powerful creature. After calling emergency services, the two women went to the spot where Tommy had been attacked and tried to locate him. It didn't take long for them to spot a body floating face down on the surface. He was clearly dead, with blood surrounding him. However, the body disappeared once more, being dragged back down. The predator was unwilling to let go of its prey. Shortly afterward, the police arrived and began searching for Tommy and the alligator. They scoured the marina for about 2 hours before finally finding the dismembered body, covered in bite marks. It was determined that the alligator had grabbed Tommy, dragged him to the bottom, drowned him, and then began to consume him. After the body was returned to his family, and the story spread throughout the community, some people organized efforts to locate and kill the animal. It had already attacked and devoured a man, and there was fear it could do so again. For days, the search proved unsuccessful. However, Kent Roberts, a local resident and friend of Tommy, was convinced the beast was still hiding nearby. Kent set up several traps and spread lines around the area of the attack, believing he could capture the alligator and avenge Tommy's death. Soon after, the alligator was caught in one of his traps. Kent fired several shots into the animal's head, killing it. While the alligator could be considered a threat, due to its familiarity with human presence, it was Tommy, drunk and reckless, who ultimately sealed his own fate.